I woke up to a miracle today. Triggers fade as I find my way. No judgment to lead astray. In this peaceful state I'll stay.
Welcome back. We are sitting down to look at this material again today.
Yeah, it is good to be doing this.
Before we get into the reading itself, I want to touch on a few logistics. We have been looking at the calendar.
We have.
And we decided to shift things. We're going to settle into posting these season 2 episodes over the weekend.
Right?
It just fits better.
Yeah.
Between work schedules and the normal rhythms of daily life, the weekend seems to be the best time for now.
It gives us a moment to breathe before we record. The weekend allows for a different kind of attention.
And speaking of where we put our attention, we have been looking at social media too.
We have minimized our presence on TikTok.
We have. We have not decided on a final replacement yet. We are considering creating a Facebook page to accompany the Instagram account.
The handle there is @the World Harmony Project.
Right. We want to focus on that family of platforms. They just seem the most stable right now.
We are looking for a place where the communication is...
consistent.
Yes, consistent.
We appreciate the interaction we get. We see the listens from around the world.
If anyone wants to reach out with feedback or just say hi, the email is ACIM@theworldharmonyproject.org.
Yes, we read those. But let us shift to the reading.
It is time for reviews.
We were looking at lessons 51 through 60.
The first review period.
We did a review back in lesson 8, but that was just a brief encounter. This week, we are fully immersed in it. We will be referencing the textbook much more after this review.
The workbook gives the specific action, but the text explains why that action has an effect. There is a difference between doing the practice and understanding the framework that supports the practice.
The text grounds the ideas in a thought system.
It provides the logic.
It's common to see the word review and think you can just skip it or take a break.
Yeah, you see that word and think, okay, done that. You treat it like a chance to stop. But it's not a pause.
Right. It's an intensification of the practice.
Which means if you just skim the words because they look familiar, you miss the point.
As you review this week, you might find it helpful to re-listen to the companion workbook lesson episodes for the week.
They might help isolate the specific ideas again.
Or whatever works best for you. We're starting the first of our review episodes, covering lessons 1 through 7. The structural purpose of this specific group of lessons is simple but huge: deconstruction.
Yeah, deconstruction. If you look at how the text opens, it says very clearly that it does not teach the meaning of love.
Right.
It says its aim is just removing the blocks to the awareness of love.
And removing those blocks requires relinquishing the idea that we are the authority on our reality.
Right. We walk around certain we know what a cup is or, what a hand is for.
We act as the unquestioned authority on everything we see.
Which is the friction of this first week. It acts as a credential check. We assume we have the authority to define what is real.
Yeah.
And this first week of practice systematically strip that authority away. You try to argue, but the idea just keeps returning to the fact that you do not actually know what anything is for. And you can feel that in how they're sequenced. By the time we hit the end of this week, the goal is to understand that our minds are currently a closed loop of memory. We aren't actually seeing because we're mostly recycling memory, playing the same responses over and over.
Exactly. Chapter 2 in the text brings up the reason for this. It discusses the separation.
The collective attempt to separate ourselves from God.
Right. That is the root of the loop. We are stuck in this memory cycle because we are actively trying to maintain a world that proves our separation is real.
It's interesting to look at how this is described compared to, the biblical story of the fall.
Yes, the imagery is very different.
In the Bible, it's an apple, the physical act in a physical garden. But here, the origin is just an idea.
It's just a thought.
The text calls it a tiny, mad idea. We didn't eat anything, we just listened to a suggestion.
A suggestion that we could be separate.
And we chose to believe it. And because we believed it, we needed a reality to support it. We needed a world with separate bodies and space and time to prove we are not one.
Which is exactly what it feels like most days, if we're being honest. Think about the things we do every day to maintain the illusion of our separation. We compare, compete, defend, attack, fear, and hate. We experience illness and death. And the crazy thing is, we've forgotten that we made all that up.
We walk around thinking the world is the cause, and we are just the effect reacting to it. Which is why the workbook has to start out so bluntly. When that first lesson says, "Nothing I see means anything," it's targeting that belief directly.
If I look at the wall or the street and tell myself it doesn't mean anything, I'm really saying that I am willing to let go of the definitions I invented.
And that points straight to chapter 21, section 2 in the text. The responsibility for sight. Responsibility means I am the one doing the seeing. I am responsible for what I see. We assign the meaning first, and then we react to a world that exists that way only because of the meaning we gave it.
And to actually learn that, chapter 11 says we have to admit we need help. We have to admit our current interpretation is faulty.
If we think we already understand what's happening, we've effectively closed the door on vision. We're basically telling the Holy Spirit, I've got this, thanks though.
I know, I have done that. I try to rely on my intellect. I think I can analyze my way to peace.
We all prize our intellects.
We do. And admitting that my own analyzing equipment is broken is a very difficult step.
Chapter 3 is very specific about why our current thinking does not work. It calls our private thoughts shadows.
Just shadows.
Yes, it says real thoughts are shared with God. So if I have a private thought, like a grievance or a worry, it's not a real thought. It is just a shadow.
A very destabilizing idea. It means my entire internal narrative, my judgments, my preferences do not have any actual substance.
None at all.
And if the thoughts I am projecting are just shadows, then the world I see through those thoughts has to be meaningless too. So I have to confront the fact that I am projecting meaninglessness and calling it reality.
And that forces the question, if the meaning is not in the object, what am I actually reacting to?
It forces me to look inside.
Right. We think we're upset at the thing because of what it means, but now we see we're the ones who decided what it means in the first place.
And you don't have to look far to see that play out. I mean, take our current president. Many of us would say he's an awful human being or isn't qualified to be president, yet others say he's exactly who the country and world need. Same president, different beliefs about him, right?
That is the perfect example. The person has not changed, but the meaning is entirely in the mind of the observer.
We are not reacting to the man. We are reacting to our own assigned meaning. That can feel so disconcerting when we first hear it. People can get really nihilistic here, thinking this means nothing means anything and nothing really happens and nothing really exists. But that's not at all what this is about.
The Course never says to pretend things aren't happening. In season 1, we said that a lot, didn't we? The Course wants us to examine our internal thoughts and beliefs. That's the only way we can act from a place of unity and peace.
It's about recognizing the hallucination so we can wake up from it, not about pretending we're not having an experience.
And the text gives us the specific mechanic of how we hallucinate. It all comes back to time. Chapter 13 gets into the function of time.
Right. We are hallucinating based on the past.
This is where we learn that time isn't neutral because of our separate way of thinking. We don't live in the now because the ego needs us to focus on the past in order to define the present. What we think we see, we've actually pre-decided.
We overlay the past onto everything. When I walk into a room, I see my past experiences of rooms.
You see your expectations.
I've already decided what everything is before I even look. The visual data just confirms what I already believe.
So let's ground that for a second. I have an example many of us can relate to. Let's say I was attacked by a cat as a child. I might be scared of every cat I see now.
Yes, you're not relating to the cat right there. You are relating to the cat from your childhood, a memory.
And I'm feeling the fear from that memory. But the trick is, I think the fear is coming from the cat in front of me today.
That is the closed loop in action.
The past loops over the present. It blocks it out entirely, and I react to the past while I firmly believe I am dealing with the present.
So why do we do this? Why are we so committed to keeping the past alive and overlaying it on everything we see?
It comes down to guilt. Guilt is the engine. Because we believe we actually succeeded in separating from God, we carry this unconscious guilt. We think we tore ourselves away from unity.
That is a heavy burden to carry.
Too heavy. So the ego uses projection as a survival strategy. It tells us to push the guilt outward. If I can make you the bad guy, I get to be the innocent victim. Chapter 13, Section 1, says we are blinded by our own guilt.
Admitting that what we see is our own guilt projected outward is a tough pill to swallow.
It means admitting our eyes do not tell the truth.
Exactly. We can see now that we're picking a target, a cat, the government official, our boss, and we say, that is why I'm upset.
We cling to the grievance because it saves us from looking inside at the mind.
But the workbook starts to undo that. It pries our fingers off the grievance.
Once we see that we are just projecting a meaningless past onto the present, the idea that the world is attacking us falls apart.
It puts the responsibility back where it belongs. Not to shame us, but to show us that if we made this perception up, we can let it go.
We clear away the debris so something else can be seen.
And that doesn't mean everything suddenly feels smooth and perfect. It just means we know where to look.
Without the logical framework provided by the text, without that grounding, these early workbook lessons can make you feel like you're just being told you're making things up.
Yeah, I mean, without the background, you're just left hanging.
Yeah.
But if you look at the specific logic of why the ego does what it does, the lessons start to look less like we're being tricked and more like a direct observation of how we actually function.
My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Lesson 8.
Right.
The ego is essentially a story of continuity. It's the story of me persisting through time.
Continuity is the key word there. If the continuity breaks, then the ego breaks. So it's not that the mind just happens to drift to the past. It's that the ego is actively keeping the mind there.
Because if we were actually in the now, if we were fully present, the ego wouldn't have a job at all.
It wouldn't exist. The now is the only place where that story falls apart. And guilt. It's the glue holding the past and future together in the mind.
It's odd to think of guilt as a tool we use for continuity, but it makes a lot of sense. If I feel guilty about something in the past, I'm expecting punishment in the future.
Lesson 9. I see nothing as it is now. I know you were looking at how this played out in your kitchen.
Yeah. It sounds mundane, but I spent years relating to that room through this exact lens. It wasn't just a room where I cooked. It was the place where I was proving I had skills. I realized I wasn't seeing a kitchen at all. I was seeing a memory. I wasn't interacting with the counter or the fridge. I was interacting with a story about my worth.
So you weren't actually seeing the room. The old meanings were just overlaying the physical objects. A story of, am I good enough?
And as long as I'm asking, am I good enough? I'm not present. I'm safe inside the continuity. It's safer to feel like a failure in the kitchen than to just be in the kitchen without a story.
And this is where the idea of level confusion comes in from the text.
Level confusion, that's a helpful concept for this.
It is. It's basically the error of believing that physical objects, the furniture or the room, have the power to create an internal state.
Like thinking the kitchen can make me happy or unhappy.
Right. The text breaks down 2 levels. There's the mind, which is spirit, the level of cause. That's where the decision for fear or love happens. And then there's the world, bodies and situations, which is the realm of effect.
So the mind is the cause and the situation is the effect.
But we get it backward. We treat the effect like it's the cause.
Trying to solve a mind-level problem by rearranging the world.
If I just get better appliances, then I'll feel peaceful. Making the world the cause of how you feel.
But then I've seen the reverse situation happen too, and we have to be careful about this. Where someone is in a genuine human crisis, maybe a health issue or a job loss, and someone else says, well, it's all an illusion.
Spiritual bypassing.
Dragging a truth from the mind level into a situation where it doesn't fit, it's dragging it into the world of form inappropriately.
It's a denial of the experience.
Yeah.
And that's a form of level confusion too. You're misapplying the idea.
So going back to the kitchen, If I accept that my thoughts about my self-worth are meaningless, then I have to accept that the kitchen itself is meaningless.
In the sense that it's neutral ground. It's not a place to be feared, and it's not a place to be blamed.
It has no power to condemn me, which is a relief. But then I realized the other side of it. If I can't blame the kitchen, I also can't use it for pride.
That's the part we usually don't want to look at. If the kitchen is neutral, you don't get to feel smug about your skills.
Pride is just another way of making ourselves separate. It's comparing ourselves and coming out on top.
It's still using the world to prove something about me.
I have a really specific example of this. I have this jar of East African Berbere spice. Now, practically it's just a spice blend, but for the longest time, it sat on the shelf and I'd look at it and I wouldn't just see spice. I'd think, I am the kind of person who uses East African Berbere spice.
It became an identity marker.
It did. It made me feel sophisticated, worldly, better than people who just use salt and pepper.
You were using it to prove you were special.
Exactly. And that's where lessons 10 and 11 come in. If that jar is nothing, if my thoughts about it mean nothing, then I can't use it to prove I'm special.
It strips the prop of its power.
And if it can't give me an identity, then the ego has nothing to latch onto.
It's funny how we use these little things. We think they're just objects, but they're anchors. Anchors for specialness or fear. It works both ways. But I try to imagine situations where the stakes are higher, like being invited to cook in a real professional kitchen. Top chef quality. Think about the stainless steel, the industrial ranges.
I'd freeze. I honestly don't think I'd know how to turn the stove on. I'd feel judged immediately.
And the reason we freeze is because it's an undefined situation. The text talks about that in section 26. When you walk into that kitchen, you don't know what it means. And that lack of definition is intolerable to the ego.
So the ego would rather I feel daunted or judged than just let the situation be undefined.
Because in the undefined, the ego can't tell you who you are.
It can't say you are the victim or you are the hero. It's just silence.
And silence feels like a threat to the ego. So it rushes in. You're an imposter. You can't cook here. Everyone is watching. Because feeling bad still confirms I exist.
So the panic I'd feel in that kitchen isn't really about the cooking. It's the ego panicking because it's losing control. It's fear of the void.
And then we get to lesson 14. God did not create a meaningless world, which can be confusing after a week of saying everything is meaningless.
But it's about what's underneath the meaning we made up. It's about the half-second gap.
We've talked about this before. There's that tiny split second before you judge something, before you decide what the kitchen means.
It usually happens so fast we miss it.
But lesson 14 is pointing to that gap. It's saying that the nothingness we fear, that void, is actually the only place reality can enter.
It's the only place that isn't cluttered with past judgments.
We spend our whole lives running from that gap. We fill it with spice jars and anxieties and stories about our skills. But the practice is to stop running. The gap isn't empty. It's where reality is waiting.
So all those thoughts about whether I'm a good cook or a bad cook, they're just pre-packaged defenses designed to keep me from experiencing that gap.
Exactly.
Once I started seeing it that way, the void stopped feeling so scary. It actually started to feel like a relief. I'm standing in the kitchen and I feel the judgment coming up. Oh, you're messing this up. And I just catch it.
You see it for what it is.
I see it as the ego trying to use the past to hide the present. And I can just stop.
You don't have to fight it.
I don't have to become the international cook, and I don't have to be the failure. I just wait. That waiting feels like the actual practice.
It is. It's not about fixing the kitchen. It's not about becoming a better person. It's just noticing the mind reaching for the past and just pausing.
You aren't trying to define everything. You're just watching the mind try to define everything, and you're declining the invitation. And in that refusal, there's a little bit of space.
A little bit of space.
And maybe in that space, we can finally see the kitchen as it actually is.
Or at least stop seeing the kitchen that isn't there.
It really leaves you wondering what else we might see if we just stop projecting our past onto the present. We'll pick this back up next time for the next block of lessons.
See that?
I woke up to a miracle today.